Welcome back to the Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson, and joining me once again, Chris Guscott. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
My pleasure.
Wasn't hard for you to get up this morning. No, we were talking about the Washington Wizards.
Yes,
your Washington
we finally
Wizards.
got to the Wizards. I love it.
I've got them ranked pretty highly this year as well. 9th overall in the league, 3rd in the East.
Yeah.
Before we get started, we have to give a quick thanks to Sporties at the Aqaba for letting us film this morning. We've had to have a little slight location change.
It's very corporate. I like it.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling very, very proper, and I'm feeling very serious now. I'm going to have to cut the jokes out and get to the point. But they've been nice enough here at the Aqaba to let us in each morning to film. So check out their Facebook in the description below, and let's get into it. Washington Wizards, a bit of a resurgence last year, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Long needed.
Oh man, I mean, being a supporter of the Wizards for so long, just watching them be down the bottom. I mean, they've had just a swag of lottery picks, top 5 picks that kind of really haven't worked out, some of them. But yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming, but I think this is the end result of a good rebuilding process. And I mean, especially with how they drafted in terms of John Wall, Brad Beal, 2 guys that obviously you could say would probably be the face of the franchise right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've rebuilt really well, and I think that they're due a good season where they can be real contenders.
Yeah, I think when John Wall first got to the Wizards, it was in the midst of that knucklehead era with Nick Young, JaVale McGee, Gilbert Arenas, rest in peace, the basketball Gilbert Arenas. But you know, we've seen them, they've come back, and these picks have started to pay dividends, you know. Last season they went 44-38, which was good enough for 5th in the East, which, you know, for a Wizards fan was good enough to be, it's like finals victory, wasn't it? Finally made it back to the big time. But you know, we saw they were a great defensive team, not a great offensive team. What do you think the key to that was?
Yeah, well, it's a really odd thing to actually look at, because you would think that with the talent they had, especially bringing in Bradley Beal, who's a tremendous three-point shooter, you'd think that the offense would be one of their strongest parts. But they had a really good front court. I mean, Gortat and Nene as well, good interior defenders. And I mean, John Wall, obviously he doesn't really get a lot of credit for the defensive work that he does as well. He's an incredible athlete, and so that always helps you on the defensive front anyway. And I mean, players like Ariza as well, they were really good at defending the perimeter. So I think it was really surprising to kind of see that their strength was defense. But that being said, though, it shows that this team is getting really good, because you can see positives in the offense as well.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, last season, obviously, the strength was that backcourt. 2 really high draft picks. John Wall, number 1 overall. Bradley Beal, 3rd overall pick. You know, to watch them blossom and play together, I think was the biggest thing. They both had shown flashes in stretches of the talent that they had. You know, John Wall was obvious from day one. He came in, had monster first year. Only missed out on Rookie of the Year really because of Blake Griffin's injury. Pretty much robbed there. But and Bradley Beal, he'd come out and was a touch and go, which is sort of, you see with shooters, that's what they like. But they came together as a pair last season, and that was great to see them working in tandem to lead this team. And that front court was obviously super talented, and Trevor Ariza was a big part last season. But they've replaced him. We'll touch on that in a bit. But bench depth was a bit of a concern, wasn't it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, they looked at players like Otto Porter Jr. as well. They've used as sort of their bench talent, but you can kind of tell that they weren't really up to the standard that they would have liked at this stage. And I think that's where they really struggled. I mean, if they had a solid bench, you think they might have been able to win a few more games, and they would have been able to maybe push for that 4th spot potentially, and maybe a home series. But yeah, I think that in terms of their bench depth, it's exactly the same as how their rebuilding stage was. They've got a whole bunch of young guys. It's just they need to now get them the minutes, and they need to get them to progress.
Yeah, well, home court advantage didn't really matter in the end, did it? Because they knocked off the Bulls, who were definitely heavily favourites there, and then struggled slightly against the Pacers, which, you know, if they had more firepower, would really have hopefully been the catalyst to them pushing through to conference finals.
And also the Wizards actually challenged the Heat fairly regularly during the season as well. So I mean, even if they'd gone through to the Eastern Conference Finals, who knows what could have happened. Yeah,
but you know, well look, they did bring in a bit of firepower in the off season, didn't they? They added Paul Pierce, PP, the Truth, P-double. that's a big signing, which, you know, he's on the decline, obviously. He's getting on, and, you know, I still think of him as a Celtic, even though he's now on his third team in 3 years.
It's a bit strange, isn't it? It's really strange.
That's a massive in for them.
Yeah, well, I think at first I was a little bit apprehensive because, like you said, he's on the slide down. I think that if you were going to pick someone, especially that sort of position, you might want to take someone a bit younger because the team is kind of in that direction, being a bit younger. But the more that I've thought about it, the more I like it because of the experience, the adds. And, you know, that's a clutch factor that I think the Wizards kind of don't have because of the youth that they have on that team.
Yeah, I think, and he's pretty much a direct replacement for Trevor Ariza, who did a very Trevor Ariza thing in having a great season and then chasing the money, which, you know, I think it's almost a blessing though. Don't get too down on yourself because he's done this before where he's had a great year, gotten paid, and then just not cared about basketball anymore. So I think he's going to come in, Pierce, and have a big impact. We'll touch on him in a second.
Sure.
I want to talk about, you know, there's Chris Humphries, DeJuan Blair going to help shore up that already strong front court. But a couple guys who are additions in another sort is Otto Porter Jr. and Glenn Rice Jr.
Exactly.
The juniors that have come in, they set Summer League on fire in the off-season, and that's going to give you that front court, back court, wing depth you didn't have last season, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you talked about it earlier. I mean, Otto Porter was a really high draft pick.
Third overall,
yeah, exactly.
I think, from memory.
Third or fourth. And he, you know, they really put a lot of faith in him, and he didn't really have the sort of class that they thought they would have from him. They went and took Glenn Rice Jr. as well to kind of maybe compensate for that a little bit, but now they've got 2 really good, like you said, good wing threes who are going to be playing quite well. And yeah, like you said, if it shores up that position, then you're behind Paul Pierce because maybe if he's not going to be playing 35, 40 minutes a night, because you can't expect him to at that sort of age. So I think that with that sort of bench depth, it's going to be very interesting now to see how they use them as well. If they use Otto Porter at maybe a 4 slot, you know, try to alternate with that front court as well to rest up some of those guys, give them a few less minutes. Well, obviously it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think we saw Paul Pierce last season have a lot of great success as a stretch 4, playing that really small ball with the net. So we could even see Pierce at the 4 and Otto Porter slide into the 3. But I think Glenn Rice Jr. is the guy for me that I'm really excited to see, just to see if he can do anything similar to what he did in Summer League. Obviously, you know, in Summer League he was putting up massive numbers, but he's playing against Summer League opponents. So he's not going to come in and be a 30-point scorer or anything
Unfortunately.
crazy. Unfortunately, that'd be great.
That'd be fantastic. If you want to do that, just go right
If he's anything like his dad,
that's true.
Be fantastic.
That is true.
To have him as like your J.R. Smith Light, or Tim Hardaway Jr., Nick Young, one of those, a wing gunner who's going to come in and just in his minutes he's going to get up his shots and get points, which is, if that's what you can get off the bench, that's perfect for this Wizards team.
It's what you need for offense as well. I mean, like you said, this team needs offense more than it does defense, and so if you're going to, you know, tailor your needs to that, then you picked a really good guy for it.
Yeah, and obviously the Wizards had no draft picks last season, which is sort of offset by these 2 guys coming off rookie seasons where they played about 50 games combined. They're practically rookies this season again. So there's your young talent that you didn't get through the draft. The guys that are going to play the bulk of the minutes, though, obviously, is pretty much the same as last season, except with Paul Pierce added in there. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Nene, Gortat. Gortat signed that massive contract extension in the off-season and celebrated by driving around in a tank. How important is the Polish Hammer to the Wizards season this year?
The Polish Hammer is underrated. I think that, you know, there are so many good pieces on this team, but the Polish Hammer just kind of, he glues it all together. He's very much a glue player in that middle, and I think that, you know, the way that he rebounds, you know, he goes about his work on the inside, more of a hustle sort of guy. I think that's definitely what the team needs. You need a little bit of grit on the inside because you've got a lot of athletic guys who are playing outside the perimeter. You need some guys in the middle who are going to be physical and are going to make sure that the people in the paint, like the 4s and the 5s, are actually going to have to work for their points. He's really important.
And you know, I'm a Suns fan, so I'm very experienced with Marcin Gortat, and I have a slightly different opinion of him because I don't like Gortat at all, just because of the era. That it's not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong, but that era in watching Suns basketball has just tainted my opinion of Gortat to the 10th degree. But I do know that he is a great player. You know, I think he's an excellent pick and roll finisher, and like you said, he's a hustle point scorer, and he's going to rebound really well, which is really important considering how injury prone Nene is.
That's true.
So to have that anchor at your centre point, which, you know, big men are at a premium in this league, so you have to overpay to get them. You know, we look at guys like DeAndre Jordan, JaVale McGee that are making, you know,
JaVale McGee, former Wizard,
double digits millions, you know. But I think those guys are going to be big. The Bradley Beal, John Wall backcourt is going to continue to develop. But the guy that is key to the success of the Wizards and seeing if they can continue what they did last season is obviously Paul Pierce, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you don't bring in a guy like this, especially at his age. You don't bring him in if you don't think he's going to have an immediate impact on this team. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're pushing now. They've kind of had enough of the rebuilding. They've said, look, we've put all our eggs into the basket to build for this point, and now we need an experienced veteran who may only have a few years left in him. And, you know, now is the time that they're going to move forward. And he like we said before, he adds a real element that the Wizards didn't have before in the way that he can expand either way.
Well, that's it. Like you said, he's 36 years old. He's got 2 years, 11 million, which, you know, is nothing extravagant either. So, you know,
it's enough for me. Like, if anyone wants to offer me $11 million,
please, thank you. But he's going to be gone in 2 years, and that doesn't really matter with this team because they've got the young core, and they can just go out and they can bring in someone else once he's gone. I think it's almost smarter for them to commit 11 million to Paul Pierce for 2 years than, you know, say the 40 million they would have had to shell out for Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you got a bit of a discount here, and it makes more sense they let Ariza go when you can just bring in a gunner at his age that can come in and he's still a great player. I mean, look at the stats he put up, 13.5 points, 4.5 boards. He's still a super efficient 2-point field goal scorer, and we saw what he did to the Nets in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
For the Nets in the playoffs, beating the Raptors, getting that game-winning block, and you know that's why they brought me here, which was awesome.
For a block, yeah, sure. But you know what? Yeah, whatever.
I love Paul Pierce. I think he's one of my favourite players over the past sort of decade, and to see him bounce around the league is a little unusual, but at the same time, really interesting and really I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm glad he's ended up with us though. Let's just say that. Like, I'd much rather him come to a team like the Wizards rather than like a team that's needed an experienced piece.
Well, I mean, some people want him to head back to Boston, which Boston's sort of at the bottom of the league.
It's a bit of a death knell at this stage,
yeah, coming back with your tail between your legs, like I wish I never left, and now we're going to play for, you know, picks.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he gets to play for a contender, chase another ring. It's going to be exciting. I think this Wizards team's going to be awesome to watch. You know, you got exciting up and down the court guards, and Paul Pierce is going to add something to that. But, you know, moving on. Believe the hypothetical, Chris. I know you've been waiting for this one, especially being a Wizard man. Thanks to Tom and Benyon for coming up with all the questions and predictions. Check out all the info on the screen. Listen to the podcast. It's a great listen. They say that the Wizards finally, House of Cards is no longer the best show in town in Washington.
Okay, interesting. Now, I've heard a lot of good things about the House of Cards, though. Let's not underestimate the fact that that's a very good show. But yes, it is the best show in town, and I am so excited for it. I mean, I can't wait for Washington just abandon that team called the Redskins. Who cares about them? Get on board with the Wizards. This is their time now, and they haven't been this good or about to be this good since they were the Bullets, which was just donkey's years ago. That's like 30, 40 odd years ago now. It's so exciting. I can't wait to watch this season.
Yeah, I mean, House of Cards is a great show.
Okay, so you have seen it?
I have watched it. I do like Kevin Spacey's great.
I love Kevin Spacey.
If we could see Kevin Spacey in character, sideline, that'd be interesting.
I was going to say, if Kevin Spacey could rock up at the game, be #1 ticket holder, that would just...
We could have him and Wale on the sidelines.
Wale.
But I think, it's great to see the Wizards coming in and not being that comedy act they were before. Before they were the best show in town, but not for the reasons they are now. It was great to watch JaVale McGee sort of run around. And
he was worth his weight in gold. I have to admit that he brought publicity to the Wizards when they shouldn't have had any publicity at all. I think it's awesome.
I mean, you've had almost crime drama with Gilbert Arenas.
Who was my favourite player until he decided to whip a gun out.
Yeah, the gun saga. And then you've got some comedy in the sort of knucklehead ears, and then just, I like to compare Nick Young's game to sort of like, it's like the American Pie of basketball games, like the sort of
it's a fair assumption, actually.
It's a friendly teen comedy, a bit of action, bit of fun here. You know, he's got
it's feel good, but it's you wouldn't rave about it.
He didn't have her in Washington, but Iggy Azalea is sort of like the the love interest there. So I think now Wizards, it's sort of more like House of Cards. Things are serious. We're trying to get to the top, and we're going to backstab and lie and steal and murder and cheat our way into making the finals.
See, that's why we need Gilbert Arenas back, because he's got the gun. So, I mean, why don't we just get him back and just be our off-field personnel?
He's trying to make a comeback, apparently, but he's also he's got like a career as an app developer now.
Of course he does.
So why would you want to leave that great app developing career to come back and play for the Wizards?
Yeah, exactly.
What number would you give him though? 0 or 9?
000.
000.
Because I mean, you're going to have to call the police sometime. Although that's the Australian
that
number.
will hold much weight with all the Americans.
Exactly. They'll be like, what? No, but I think that would work. You know, just keep adding zeros on until he gets it right.
Quadruple 0.
Quadruple 0.
Next season we'll add another one.
2 layers.
2 layers?
I think it's fair.
Change it. We could have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It's just no name, not Arenas, just zeros.
Just zeros. Well, he's Agent Zero. That's all I've known him as. So.
Yeah. That's the thing. Once he changed to 9, that was it.
I'd be really sad.
Lost his superpowers, you know. Gilbert Arenas was awesome.
He was so amazing to watch. Yeah. He was just one of those dudes where he could chuck up a 3-pointer, not even look at it and know it went in.
Yeah, unlike Nick Young, it would go in. But that's one of my favourite social media things is the sort of banter between Nick Young and Gilbert Arenas. They're always tagging each other in Instagram videos of like breaking the other one's ankles or like making trick shots and stuff. So that's really fun to watch. But we've got to wrap it up.
Sure.
30 seconds on the clock, Chris. You're Wizards. I'm looking for you. I'm deferring to you. What's going to happen in Washington this season?
Okay, well, I think last year they showed plenty of promise, especially in the way they took on the Bulls in the first round of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Eastern Finals.
That was pretty impressive.
It was really impressive how they went about it. I think a third seed isn't beyond them. I think that they've got a really good team, and obviously we talk about Cleveland and Chicago on just this tier that's above everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the East, but. Yes. The Wizards are a good enough team, and they're still too young to say that they've stopped developing. So you can say that they're going to keep building, if not maybe a little bit slower this time round. But third seed is definitely not out of reach, and they could easily try and get to the Eastern Conference Finals if they get a good run against a team like Chicago potentially.
Yeah, I think for the Wizards this season, the best case scenario is an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. I think we're locking in either Chicago or Cleveland for one of those spots, but equally we could see one of those teams sort of either Cleveland not gel or Chicago not be healthy. So Washington is a definite chance to make an Eastern Conference Finals if all the cards fall their way.
House of Cards.
If the House of Cards falls their way, they could definitely make Eastern Conference Finals. But I'm definitely putting him in for the third seed. I've got a lot of faith in this young team and how they play, and they've added some really crucial pieces. So I think definitely playoff contenders this season, the Wizards.
Yeah, well, let's just keep this in mind though. They are Washington.
That's true. They could easily finish with the worst record in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not get too carried away. All right. Let's remember what they've done in the past. And
it's all right because you can get excited. You're allowed to get excited now. You're allowed to get excited now. Okay?
It's like that really badass boyfriend you can't trust. Well, I guess like leather jacket-ish.
I suppose none of my boyfriends have had leather jackets, so I don't really know. But yeah, I think now the most important thing is, like the Believe the Hypothetical question, you're allowed to be excited about the Wizards now. You're not a weirdo if you think the Wizards are going to win.
People are like, who? Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Get around it. Washington Wizards, playoff contenders, maybe Eastern Conference Finals. But we've got to wrap it there. Sure. Thanks for joining us at the Fiasco Sports NBA season preview in our very business-like boardroom approach.
I think we went about it rather professionally.
We should have done this from the start. I feel like I know more just by sitting at this table.
I feel underdressed.
I feel underdressed as well.
Yeah.
I'll Photoshop some suits onto us. But thanks for joining us. I've been Matt Sanson. This has been Chris Guscott. Thanks for coming in, man.
No worries.
We'll catch you in the next one. Shout out to Sporties and Believe the Hype. Smooth.
Smooth.